Hey, what's up, everybody? Vinny here. Wanted to drop a quick line and say thank you for stopping by and checking out the podcast. This is the first episode, and I could not think of a better person to have on to discuss his entrepreneur journey and share some knowledge that I really think could help out beginners. If you enjoyed the podcast and want to show support, please like, subscribe, and of course, share to a friend. Really appreciate you stopping by. See you next time. All right, you ready?
Yeah, let's get it.
All right, man. So, Dustin Guard here, one of my good buddies. Dude's crushing it, in my opinion, on the entrepreneur game on his side, just doing a bunch of spectrum, a wide variety of stuff, hitting every spectrum. And introduce yourself, bro.
Yeah, man. My name is Dustin Guard. I live here in around the Nashville, Tennessee area. Um, Served with Vinny here in the Navy. Was going on 10 years ago now. And then got out of the Navy and in like 2016 area time frame, and then just kind of went down rabbit holes of what I was going to do in the civilian life. Um, I kind of got the entrepreneurial bug, I guess. Tried a bunch of things for those things not to work, and then just kind of land on things that kind of stuck, and just kind of what I'm doing now.
So what are you doing now?
Kind of a mix of things, man. I do a podcast as well, kind of like in the car detailing space, teaching other detailers how to run a business and how to dive into some things that they may have not known about. Some things that it takes to grow a business, and so that they can actually scale and make the money that they want to make. And then we started like a commercial and residential window tinting business, and where like blocks heat on commercial buildings, blocks heat for like houses, creates privacy if that's what they're looking for. It was kind of a market that I was unfamiliar with in general,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a market that like you know, tinting windows on houses and commercial buildings is fairly easy. You can probably learn it in a week or two. And it was kind of a market that, like, here in Nashville, it's growing super quick. And so these commercial projects, we kind of noticed that like there wasn't a market that's been tapped into for that yet here.
Right.
So we opened that, and it kind of took off, and we're still learning it just because it wasn't a business I was like super familiar with. So still kind of learning the ropes, but I mean, essentially every service business functions the same way. It's just, um, you know, the nuance to it you might have to pick up, but as far as growing it, it's the exact same. So we kind of been doing that, and then kind of been diving into some online stuff. It's kind of where I'm like super passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I kind of got the bug of like, just like everybody probably stumbles across like a YouTube ad to where they're see something about like making money quick, and it's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I want to dive into that, but
Right. Right.
it's really not that easy. But I feel like it's probably the easiest way to make money quick without like doing a bunch of physical work. So
Yeah. No doubt.
um,
And
still
you
just kind of diving into those holes.
and you started back in the day, like mobile detailing was your first, like because you did that obviously before you joined the Navy, so you were kind of into the detailing game, and then you decided to start your own mobile business. So how did talk about that a little bit? Like how was that kind of adventure? Like you coming out of the Navy, like, hey, I know about this kind of specialty, and I'm gonna start a mobile detailing business. Like, talk about that a little bit. Like, how was that kind of, you know?
Yeah. Unfortunately, it was the only thing I knew how to do outside of the Navy, just because I got in when I was, right out of high school. And
Yeah.
before, when I was in high school, I worked at a detailing shop, and so it was getting out of the Navy. That was the only thing I kind of had to fall back on. And detailing's not like a crazy, sexy type of industry, but it's what I knew. And I was like, man, I got to make money now. And so I kind of started that, and I didn't do great in the beginning. I just didn't know what I was doing. As far as like, what it took to actually grow a business, I know how to clean a car, but I didn't know how to like, I didn't know that how to be online and have a website and those things.
Right. Like the
It was a
marketing is
bunch
so
of,
important. All right.
yeah,
Yeah.
it
So
is. I mean, it's kind of like you're a painter, but you don't have a canvas to paint on. So if you don't have clients, you don't have any cars to work on. I just wasn't really making any money when I first got out for the first couple years.
Yeah, so with that being said, like what with the lessons you've learned, what is like some advice that you can give someone trying, yeah, I mean any business, I guess like you said, you can kind of paint the canvas whatever you want to, but if you're starting a business, what advice could you give to like a newbie? Like, hey, these are the things that I struggle with that you could probably do better on or like be mindful of, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I think use your downtime wisely. Like what I did wrong was like initially you hit up all your friends and family. You're like, hey, I'm starting this business, this detailing business, and
Mm-hmm.
it can be a whatever business you're in. But it's like you hit those people up, and then you ride that wave of friends and family, and that only lasts so long because you need to know way more people that know about your business than just friends and family.
Right.
So like whenever I would get home, and some days I didn't have any jobs. Most days I didn't. I'll just sit there and scroll on Netflix and watch TV, and there were things that like I think there was like a point in time to where it kind of clicked. It's like, oh, dude, I need to be creating a website, and I need to be creating my Google listing. I need to be putting myself out there to where like people can find me. Um, and that's when it kind of like, and obviously the things I created in the beginning, like my website and my social media it was still butt cheeks, but
Yeah.
it just, it, it was a good starting point of like, okay, at least I started it, at least I did it. And then I can now change it and get better and better. And then like, as you evolve, um, you're never going to have like a polished product, but at least like you're growing in the right direction. And I would say just use downtime wisely. Like put it towards learning, how to get people to find you, how to be, um, how to be findable online. Because
Yeah. What
anybody that needs something done, like if you need a haircut, you don't know a barber, you
mhm.
go straight to Google and you're like barber near me or barber in whatever city you're in.
Right.
So if you're not online, then you don't have the chance to get that client.
Yeah, so how does someone get their name to pop up? Because I remember we had talked a little bit, probably more a lot pretty in depth about like how do you get your business to pop up and what businesses are popping up in your area and they're like kind of like your competitors, right? Like that whole thing. So how do you get your name out there, you know?
Yeah, it comes down to like a few components. I mean, you have to have good content. You got to like your brand in general has to look good because Google, as weird as it is, it's like they have a bunch of bots that like kind of look at your business and everybody's business, and it's not really a person doing it. It's just a bunch of bots that crawl the space of Google. They're like, okay, this business looks good, doesn't look good. And then they go to tier two and they're like, does their name, phone number, and address, do they all match across every website that they can possibly be found on online? And if it all matches, then it looks cohesive. Then they go to, tier three and it's like, how many reviews are they getting consistently? So,
Mm,
making sure to ask customers for reviews because they rank you based on, Google looks at it as like, if you're getting reviews consistently and they're 5-star reviews, then Google's like, hey, this is an actual business that's still active.
right.
I want to reward them with ranking. So that's another thing. Tier five would be adding keywords as many times as you can. I think Google gives you like 750 characters to use in a description. And in that description, you want to list like, let's say you're a barber. You want to list like, hey, you want to say the keyword barbershop or barber near me, barber, whatever city,
In the
as many
description.
times in the description. Yeah. And so, for my industry, it's detailing. So I put as many keywords that like how a customer would search would be what a keyword is. So it's like car detailing Nashville, auto detailing near me, mobile detailing, my city. And it sounds repetitive, but that's what they want to see. They want to Google wants a clear understanding of like,
Hmm.
hey, this is what they do. And when a customer searches based on that keyword, you have a better chance of showing up.
So would that be like a hashtag game, like oh
Yeah.
hashtag for like the FYP hashtag, you know, whatever you would put on
Mhm.
any kind of gaming normal like thumbnail type deal, like all those kind of
Exactly.
phrases.
Yeah. So
Okay.
like social media, I mean, Google is king. Like Google and YouTube and YouTube is owned by Google. So it's like, Google owns the top two spots when it comes to search engines.
Mm,
So, um, Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, I guess, all these other platforms, they're behind Google. So they kind of mimic Google in so many aspects because Google will never be taken down. It's going to be number
right.
one forever. as far as I would think.
Yeah, facts.
So they mimic so many of these like behaviors that Google set in place, and so they use like Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. You use hashtags. All hashtags are is just a way for your content to be found and tell those platforms what you're trying to get your content, or who you're trying to target with your content.
Mm.
So it's just for SEO purposes.
Yeah, no kidding. Like I know back when I was like doing first starting to get into streaming and everything, and you put me on like the thumbnails and everything. Like, oh, you need to have
Mm-hmm.
a nice popping thumbnail so when people are searching your video in YouTube, it sticks out. Like, how are you going to stand out from all the other hundreds of thousands of people that are trying to get their name out there? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I think you said it best earlier, and in the past is like collaborating as well. Like I know you've done some collaborating with businesses and other things to maximize the growth of your detailing adventure. Like talk about that, like that kind of like networking, the importance of that.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's like the little hidden cheat code to anything that anybody wants to start is like whatever you're in, whether you're like selling cookies or it doesn't matter. Whatever
Yeah.
industry you're in, that is the easiest way to grow an audience, and like and it doesn't have to be big. Like my niche is really small. There's only so many people that start a business on how to clean cars, or start a business cleaning cars. So like, but it doesn't matter because it's like if that audience, even if the audience is small, it's just a smaller room to talk to people. But like when the room gets crowded, so like if it's a bigger niche or a more broad niche,
Hmm.
it gets a little bit harder because it's like now it's a whole S room that you're talking to, and it's harder to sell to people that when there's a bunch of people. So when you're able to like target and like get really, really nitty gritty with like what you're doing in the smaller the niche is, sometimes it's better because you can build a better connection with people.
Mm.
But once you like run out of building connections and you run out of the audience that like you kind of max out the audience, then you reach out to other people within your industry that are doing something similar to you. And even if they have a small audience, it might be an audience that you haven't tapped into. So it's like, hey, collab with them on something, do a podcast with them, do some type of giveaway, or there's so many different things that you can collab with them on,
Right.
and kind of be a friend within your niche. And then you share their stuff, so they tap into your audience and they share your stuff. So and it's not really competing if they are offering something completely different than you, but it's just you have the same target audience. So like you do that so many times with so many people within your industry. Now you're tapping into all these different streams of audiences, and
Right.
that's how you grow. And then once you get super big, then you tap into big accounts and big people within your niche, and they have a massive following. And hopefully by this point, you have a decent following as well, and you kind of piggyback off their following as well. So it's just there's different levels, but I think some people think that just because they're on like the bottom level,
Hmm.
that there's no one that they can collab with, but there's someone that's just a step above them that they
Right.
can, piggyback off their audience.
Yeah, for sure, dude. I think like everyone can eat, right? Like you can work together and just everyone can grow together. Even if it is like you said the same, that's 100% facts. That's like
Mhm.
in the streaming game too. Like everyone's kind of helping each other out. Like, hey, I'll watch yours, you watch mine, I follow you, you follow me, and then we'll just kind of grow our audience together, kind of thing. It's legit. So you,
Streaming, that part, that like what you said with like the gaming and streaming industry,
yeah,
that's the best way to look at it because it's like that you see all the time gamers playing like even big time names. They're playing with like one of the ones I watch used to was Z Laner. He played with Dr. Disrespect and grew substantially
mm,
because he tapped into such a big accounts audience.
right, right,
And they just, it's just like streaming is, you're not even really selling anything besides attention. So,
mm,
um, that's the best way to look at it. They're constantly collaborating.
yeah, facts, dude. Um, so I want to like kind of get into like you transitioned out of the mobile and kind of did that and then opened your own shop, right? So like while you were kind of transitioning into like a stand out building, like what would you say is like what was the biggest hurdle that you had to overcome to kind of get that business up and running to where it was and like as successful as it had been, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. And I would say this is probably counterproductive to what I've been saying in the past because like everybody wants to grow, grow, grow. Um, and I think everybody has like a point in their life to where they're like the most motivated. And that was probably like the point that I was most motivated just because it's like you see something grow it's gratifying to see it grow, and then you just don't want to stop. It kind of gets addicting, and that's where I would say like sometimes taking it slower and being a little bit more mindful of your growth, because it can kind of put you in a spot to where you're not so happy. And that was probably the most like unhappy that I've been, even though it was like it was successful and doing what I wanted it to do or what I thought I wanted it to do when I started it.
Yeah.
It just had so many hurdles that I didn't know that I was going to face until I was in it.
Oh
And
yeah.
then once you're in it, you have overhead, your contractual, or you have a contract for your lease for the building, and it's like you it makes it to where you don't sleep great at night. So that I would say just like sometimes being smaller and having less but still making money
Hmm.
is sometimes better than putting yourself in a spot to where like you just there was days to where like I couldn't find employees, so I'd have to work till 2 a.m. and go back at it early in the morning the next day and to repeat that process. And
Right.
so it wasn't a great time for me, and so that's kind of why I pivoted out of it and got out of that whole not got out of the whole industry, just because I'm more so teaching people now how to do it. But it's just
Hmm.
I got to a point to where I burned myself out.
No doubt. So like what? So that was one hurdle, like not seeing the unexpected stuff coming up, overhead, employees. Like what would you say was something that kind of helped you through that, I guess, you know what I'm saying? Because, like, I guess that is something you don't really think about. Like, oh, crap, I need to find employees that are going to be dedicated, that are going to do the job I need them to do with, like, as little oversight as possible for me to be able to focus on other things. Like, is that, like, kind of hitting the nail a little bit? Like, some, like, trouble that you kind of backed into, you know? Like,
Yeah, I think for me personally, I just realized that like I either wasn't good at being a manager, or just that wasn't my passion. It wasn't the part of the business that I liked, and there's something that like if my passion for where I wanted my business overpowered me not like being a manager, then I
mm-hmm,
would have kept doing it. But just both combined, I just kind of wanted to pivot out of it and do something a little bit that I was more passionate about. Um, not that like there's nothing that comes easy. So like, and when I was talking about like with the online stuff, it's not easy. It does take like time and research, and you constantly have to be like
it's like a
studying
grind, dude.
and it's a grind, but it's an easier grind than managing employees and constantly going down that hamster wheel of having money going out every month and overhead, and
Mm,
it's cheaper to run. Just for me personally, it's, like that stress wasn't what I wanted. Um, so I not that I'm like chasing easy money by any means, because nothing is easy, like I mentioned. It's just more or less I know for me personally, there's bigger and better things that profit more, that don't require as much
mm-hmm.
effort and money, really, even capital.
Yeah. So if I was a dude like, yeah, I'm gonna open up a business and I'm planning on opening a storefront. This is just like, what would you recommend to use for like budgeting, managing employees, like that kind of? Is there like a program you use for that? I'm just like, nothing stood
Every
out.
industry has a different software and CRM. Like, within detailing, there's a big one that's called your Able. Well, it's primarily used for detailing. And so, like, if you were to get into, let's say you open up a gym, well, they probably have a CRM or something
Mm.
just for that industry. Each industry, I know lawn care has their own and roofing has their own. It's just each industry has its own system.
What are some unexpected expenses, I guess, just in general, not only like like with opening a business like that, and even with the mobile detailing, like some stuff that like someone might not even think about that are just like, oh crap, I did not envision having to pay this or doing this.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. For mobile detailing in general, and this goes for probably, there's always going to be unexpected expenses,
Mm-hmm.
because especially like for like detailing and window tint, that's seasonal. So like it's very much so March through like October. And in those months, yeah, you make more, but you also are doing more. When you do more, typically equipment fails, or like things pop up, things get damaged. So like, and for instance, mobile detailing, you have to have a generator on the unit, and you have to have a pressure washer and a vacuum and these tools and equipment. So like when you're putting those things to work when it's busier, typically a generator is going to blow or a pressure washer is going to blow. So like I got to the point where I'm like, okay, for sure it's going to blow at some point throughout the year, and I pretty much got to the point to where I'm going to buy a generator per year. I'm going to buy a pressure washer per year. I don't know when it's going to go out. I don't know if I'm
Right.
going to need two that year, but they're typically going to fail just because they're just getting put to use so often. And so like generators, about $1,000. And so like that's going to go at some point, and you just, so equipment, I think, and then like damage to property sometimes, like the more
Mm.
you're doing, the more chances that you have to accidentally mess something up on whatever you're working on. So like
Right,
that
right.
hits hard.
Yeah, plug what you're doing right now, like what you offer for that podcast, like not that I don't know who's going to be watching this, but maybe it'll hit, like maybe it'll hit a group of people who are into detailing just because that's like your background, right? Like what is
Yeah.
the current business you're doing now with like that podcast, like help helping others grow themselves?
Yeah. So if you just so happen to be a detailer listening to this, and you're wanting to either start one or grow one, I do a podcast every week that pretty much just goes over any of the hidden, like kind of uncovering the secrets that, it may have took me 5, 6, 7 years to learn, and that you can like pick up on it and just listen to it in one episode. And it's like, oh, I didn't even think about that. There's just little tips and tricks on how to grow or start an auto detailing business. Like I said, it's a super small industry, super small niche. But it's just the detailing industry has, like, most of the time, a lot of the guys don't have a ton of money, just like myself, like, to start, and you kind of have to learn it the hard way. And like you got two different ways to grow, and it's either with money, like actual capital in the beginning, because you can start, outsourcing for marketing and outsourcing for getting your website created and things you don't have to learn yourself. That's always the easiest way, just because it's going to give you the fastest return. Or you have the sweat equity part, and that's probably most detailers. And it's you actually have to go detail the car, and then when you get home, you have to create your website, create your online listing, research it, learn how to do all these things. So like most detailers just don't have a ton to start with, and we're on that sweat equity side. And it's like I want to help make that sweat equity side as easy as I possibly can, and that's what I do through the podcast.
Yeah, no doubt, bro. I feel like sweat equity side of it is like how the majority of people would start any business. That shit is just super grindy. You're like, I want to do this. I have these ideas. Maybe I have these skills. I'm gonna open this business. I'm gonna do these things, promote myself on these platforms, and hopefully I get enough people interested to where I'll grow substantially enough to be successful and start earning some money. You know what I'm saying? And it's like
Yeah, yeah,
that shit
for
is like
sure.
super intimidating, because like Laura and I have talked a little bit about, hey, we want to kind of open a business or we want to do that, and it's like we're kind of like talking through the plan of what we're gonna do, and it's just like,
Hmm.
you know, even to find a location, is one thing, but then you have to kind of
Hmm.
come up with your brand and like what it's gonna encompass and what that's gonna do
Hmm.
to attract people to come to it. It's kind of like super intimidating, man. Like I don't know, man. Like what advice would you give to someone or like to whoever like who's kind of feeling that pressure of like, oh man, like I don't really know how I'm gonna even start.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that part is like the most intimidating, but it's probably the most fun. It's like when you first get that idea, you're like, it lets off some type of endorphins in your brain, and it's like, oh
Yeah.
hell yeah, dude, can't wait, it's so fun. But then, like immediately after that rush, that good feeling, it's the overwhelm, and it's like, oh damn, where do I start? There's things that I don't know how to do, and it's like this frantic mode.
Right. Right.
I think that's where like a lot of people, including myself, on mini projects or like side hustles that I wanted to start. It's like you hit that one roadblock, and you're like, I don't know how to do that. Like I don't know where to go from here. So then you just stop, and then that's where you'll never. That's where regret comes in later. But I think outsourcing as many things as you can afford is the best. Like there's things that like you may be good at, but it just take a lot of time,
Mm.
and there might be someone slightly better that you can pay for. So like this is where I think, like, obviously most people are in that sweat equity category, but like, man, anything, if anyone has the funds to like take something off their plate, absolutely do it, because like that's a checkbox checked off, and you didn't even have to do that, and you could spend time doing something else. So
Right.
like my thing is obviously have a budget for what you can afford going
Mm.
forward, but like there's some businesses that don't take a ton of money. You use the money that it would take and put that towards like outsourcing your brand. Like give them you can send, and it's not that expensive too. Like a lot of these things is you can get like on Fiverr or a site called Upwork, and it's like people overseas that just the dollar amount doesn't match America's,
Mm.
and so like they're doing work that Americans would do for, let's say, $500. They're doing it for 25, and it's like, and you send them all of your inspiration. Like if you want a logo created, and you might be able to create a logo, but is it to the tier of like what softwares they're using to create it? So like you send them someone outside of your industry's logo, and you're like, hey man, I really like this one and I like this one. Can
Mm-hmm.
you kind of work your magic on it? And they'll send you a ton of revisions, and it's like, hey, do you like this one? No, change this. No, change this.
Mm.
So it's like things that you don't have to do yourself, you can put towards things that do require you as like the startup and the creator. So like
Right.
I think outsourcing as many things as you can afford is like the best tip I could give.
No doubt.
But like obviously, if you don't have a ton of capital to start and you don't want to put that money towards starting it, you do have to go on that sweat equity side. But it's
Yeah.
just like research, man. Like YouTube will tell you freaking everything.
Yeah. 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 I'd say that's a big one, man. Like getting the YouTube hits, getting those kind of website hits, especially Google. Remember, you would be like, "Yo,
Mm-hmm.
man, some dude left me a bad review." Like, like, and every review, you're just like, "Damn, like, this is how is this gonna affect my ability to be seen or for people to come out?" Because I mean, I'm super guilty of it. The first thing I ask when I go to a new restaurant is like, "What are the reviews like?" You know what I'm saying? You just get a couple knuckleheads that leave like a bad review, and you're like, "This might screw me over
Mm-hmm.
for a couple customers coming in." It's like, "Damn, dude,
Mm-hmm.
shit sucks."
Yeah, dude, it's reviews are freaking like, and that's kind of the world we live in too. That you kind of base like your own self worth based on like, especially when you put a ton of time into growing something, and it's like your baby and your passion. So
Mm.
like a 1-star review almost degrades you personally because you're like, damn, dude, what did I mess up on? Like, it beats you beat yourself up over what, and it could have been something you didn't even do wrong.
Right.
um you know and you degrade yourself based on what someone rates you as, or rates your business as. They're not even rating you personally, they're rating your business.
Right. Right.
And it just makes you lose sleep, and it's like, it sucks. It's the world we live in, and
Yeah.
reviews are freaking everything for business, but it's
Right. You can't let that shit bother you though, because like I don't know, you've been pretty steadfast on like your approach and like your growth and like your determination to be successful and like you just dude like you're just crushing it. Like I know it's hard. It's easy for me to say like don't let it bother you, but you know what I'm saying? But like honestly, man,
yeah,
you've been fucking crushing it and it's
I
awesome.
appreciate
It's
it.
awesome to see like where you first started with your ideas to how like mobile detailing successful, you moved over to the other one success, and then you decided to transition and just like everything you're doing, it's like you have the method to success and you're just applying it to whatever venture you want to jump into, and it's like it's obviously working, so it's pretty dope to watch, man. It's like it's motivating. Like like I'll say like when you first started getting into it, like we would be talking about stuff and I'd just be mad motivated like yo man, I want to start doing this stuff, man. Like I want to get out there and like start streaming or start creating thumbnails and like start pushing content and like doing all this stuff to like be successful in different areas that like I would never normally have pushed myself because it was like fun watching you like do that stuff and like get your success and like grow. So
No, I
it,
appreciate it, dude.
yeah, man, no doubt. So what does the future look what does the future look like for your businesses and stuff?
Um, man, I really, I've hit a point to where like, you think you're working on something that's gonna be like your when you're 50, that's the thing, like,
Yeah.
um, I don't like know fully, obviously like I'm kind of diving into these online things, and like, service-based businesses is like kind of what's hit the most for me, like my biggest, I guess, home runs in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of take up majority of my time, so it's like hard to work on the thing that like I have the most optimism about, which is stuff online. I think like what I would hope for is something to take off online, and like that be, create one thing, and then once that works, rinse and repeat, create it for something else, and just have a bunch of online businesses. But I think that would be my goal, but you never know. I think like if I were to look back even 3 years ago, like I would never even imagine that I'd be what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
So it's like it's very unpredictable, especially when like like I'm constantly online, I'm learning new things, getting optimistic about certain things, and it's like, oh dang, I want to start that. I think that's what kind of sucks too with like the way my brain works is I'm very like shiny object syndrome type of thing.
Right.
Super hype about it, and then it's um and then I have just like 12 things that I want to work on, and it's like which one do I want to actually work on, because you can only do so much on,
Yeah,
you
like
can't do 12 things like.
right, staying focused on what you want to do and just putting everything you have into that one venture instead of spreading yourself out. Yeah, that makes sense,
For
man.
sure.
Not for sure, bro. But hell yeah, man. I mean, I don't got no other questions, bro. I mean, what I'd say it went pretty good. We're at like around 30 minutes, I think, is what we're our
Yeah, yeah, no,
target time was. But
no, that's good.
if you can leave everyone with one motivation plug or one thing for any nerd out there trying to start their own business, like I don't know, like what would be your motivational plug?
um Man, that's hard because everybody's brain's so different. I would really just say, man, just like whatever you want to do, just like really work towards it. Like if you don't know anything, like don't, like I mentioned earlier, you hit like roadblocks that like you get super hype about things. Like everybody has their thing that they just want to do, whether it be a hobby, a business, whatever. It's like they got that one thing that they're like, hell yeah, dude, like that's gonna take off, and it's gonna do this for me, and I'm gonna be able to take as many vacations as I want. Like that's that fun part of it. But like when you do hit that roadblock of something you don't know how to do, just don't quit. Like, do research, get on YouTube, figure out how to do it, and then put it to work. And then if you hit another roadblock, do some more research, and then put that to work. Because like at the end of the day, man, you'll look at the process and be like, hell yeah, thank God that I put in the work and overcame that hurdle. Because once it's set up and once it's done, hell, even if it doesn't produce anything, at least you got something done, and it's a checkbox checked.
Oh yeah, bro, dig it. Well, Dusty, man, appreciate your time. Send me all your socials and shit. I'm gonna put it in the description and
Yeah, yeah.
fucking chop this some bitch up and put it out there, brother.
Oh, show.
Thanks for your time, man.
Oh, yeah, bro.